Intelligent transport system, there are changes in shipping. Shipping's a very old established industry, and it's slow to change. There is navigation equipment which you can put a ship on autopilot and it'll get from A to B. You can put an auto helm on. Generally speaking, it's much better than a human doing the job. You can tell a ship, well, I need to make a 2-mile radius turn at a speed of 12 knots, and that's exactly what it will do, whereas a human will be guessing.
Smartship is a simulator center focused on training of marine pilots in the ports around Australia, New Zealand and Pacific. We also do a lot of work with the ports in looking at the development of ports, on the operational side, new infrastructure, or looking at getting new vessels into the port that hasn't been there before, which is something that has been going on quite a lot in Queensland and the rest of Australia for the last, say, 4 or 5 years. Smartship delivers a value to the state and the industry in form of trying to optimize the use of the ports and also to improve the safety around the ports.
The working limits on pilots are quite often established by sort of a rule of thumb going back years, and somebody will say, well, I don't think that's safe. What we can do is we can actually test it and say, well, that is safe. We can test it until it's not safe and say, well, okay. So we know what the danger point is. We work out how much safety margin you need, and that's your safe limit. In a week's training here, we can replace months of time on the water, really.
Infrastructure and port development is extremely expensive. If you can utilize existing infrastructure more effectively by testing out, say, the limits of the operation of the port in the simulator, you can save a lot of money there.
Our biggest clients are port authorities, and their motivation is obviously the economics of their port, and they're looking to improve that either by bringing in bigger ships, or more deeply loaded ships, and we can try that out in the different situations, and they can establish safe working procedures. Or they're looking at changing the design of the port. We can model several different designs of a port to see which one's the most feasible, which one gives them the best cost benefit. And again, once you've done that, we can look at safe operating limits and emergency procedures and so on and so forth. We can try all these out in the simulator.
I mean, simulations are very cheap compared to building infrastructure or dredging ports. So that's where simulations comes in very, very effectively, and you can look at using the existing infrastructure and see if there are limits that could be changed, or effective scheduling of the port could make it possible to use the more effect of the port. With the development of simulators, the accuracy of simulators have increased a lot the last 10 years, and the things that 5 years ago was impossible to do can today be done in simulators.
The big advantage of simulation training is that you can operate in conditions that are risky in the real world. You can save a huge amount in costs. Obviously, driving a tug around here all day merely costs a bit of electricity and people's time, whereas out in the real world there's a tank full of diesel fuel gone up and smoke. You can put trainees in the sort of risky situation that you just could not do in the real world.
So the technology is evolving very fast in this area. Of course, computers are getting more powerful, but there are new technology coming in also to it that makes it more accurate. With more accuracy, you can use this for making important decisions around the port and risks around the port. Smartship offers, of course, training for pilots and captains and seafarers, and we offer then, of course, different courses in this area. Everything from training in using electronic charts to specific training for specific ports and pilots. So they come to us with a certain requirement of what they need trained in, and we will then develop a training course for them. So a lot of the courses we do here are tailored to one customer.
The type of training solutions we've come up with for Cairns, for example, they're looking at bringing in larger cruise liners, and rather than do a lot of very expensive dredging and then hoping it works, we can test out various port designs here. So we have about 6 different designs of the Cairns approach channel, different degrees of dredging, and they can establish safe working parameters, conditions and procedures, and then decide how much dredging they do actually need to do. It saves them a lot of time and money.
The simulators we have here are what we call full mission bridges, which are the ships that we could load up almost any ship that will call the port, especially in Australia. And we have a huge library. We have 110 different vessels in our library right now. So they can then be used on the different simulators. So we have 5 simulators altogether in the facility. 2 of them we call full mission. 1 is what we call a tug simulator, and 2 are part task simulators. They can all do pretty much the same job, but depending on who is the client, we use different simulators for them.
So the tug simulator, we can use this to simulate a wide range of different tugs, all the popular models. So we can put a line up between the tug on this simulator and the ship which is on another simulator, and the forces that act on both ships are the same and equal and opposite, of course, being a string.
There is a lot going on in the simulation industry. On the visual side of simulations, there is the 3D coming in. It's already available, but it's in an early stage. So 3D, using 3D goggles, that's coming. There is, of course, on the hardware side, there's coming out new, better things on that all the time. And Smartship has an ongoing upgrading of our hardware and software. So every year there is something that we've been shifting out and lifting the standard of the facility.